Hi, in this video I'll tell you about imagery. First of all, what is imagery and how does it work in general? And then I'll talk to you about some of the most common stylistic devices that can be considered imagery. Let's go!
English with Mr. B.
I will talk about these points in the following order. First of all, what is imagery? How does it work? Then metaphor and simile. What does it mean? What's the difference between them? And then personification. What's important about that? And how are all of these different from a symbol? Let's go. Imagery means a number of devices, and I find most important are these devices here: metaphor, simile, personification, and symbol. They have something in common because in the way they work is that because the author mentions something, a picture, an image, this image sort of is created in your mind. And because you think of it, this image will trigger, let's say, an emotion. It will make you think of a feeling, of an idea, etc. And then this idea is connected to, say, a character in a novel, etc. So this is how imagery works, with a picture in your mind. And this is why it's called, of course, imagery. Let's go. And now I put metaphor and simile into one category because they're very similar with a slight difference. A metaphor is an implied comparison. That means nobody says and makes clear to you, I'm comparing this to that, but in fact that is what is being done. So there is no like or as, but effectively something is being compared. If I say, you're my treasure, of course what I mean is you are very valuable, or you're very important to me, or I'm glad I found you, etc. But there's no like or as. I don't say you are like a treasure, then it would be different. So that's a metaphor. Simile is very similar, only it's an explicit comparison. So we have a like or an as, or another kind of word that makes clear I am comparing something to something else. So if I say he's like a rock, I often mean he's very reliable, etc. And the like shows that I'm comparing these things to show a certain quality about this person. Let's move on to personification. How is a personification different? As is in the name, it has something to do with person, so it's easy to remember, and it means that you're describing an object, an animal, forces of nature, abstract ideas, etc. with human qualities. So you are turning them into a person. So you're using a personification. That is the idea. So when I say the flowers were begging for water, what I mean is, of course, the flowers needed water, or I really wanted to water the flowers because they looked dry. But of course, the flowers cannot really beg for water. Only a person can beg for something. So I'm giving the flowers a human quality to express an idea. Another example from a poem, this is, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. And what Emily Dickinson here wants to express is, very roughly, that we cannot choose when to die, that the time of our death is sort of set by us, for us by fate, by God, etc., unless there are very different circumstances, but normally. And of course, death is not a person that stops, or it's not a force that stops for us. So this idea of stopping is a human quality that death, which is not a person, cannot really do. So it's a clear personification. A symbol is very different from the other things, as you will shortly see. A symbol always is an object or a sign, so something written or something really existing, and it represents an idea. For example, if it says somewhere he had drawn a heart next to my name, it probably means he loves me, because the heart is a pretty universal symbol for love. The difference, and this is really important, I think, is that this symbol exists on the level of the work of art. So it exists within the novel, for example, it exists within the poem. And this is different from, for example, a metaphor. When I say, your words were like a knife into my heart, then there is not really a knife in the novel. Yeah, it's just that the words are like a knife, or the words are a knife. But if it's a symbol, then the knife would really exist. So this is what is the main difference between simile, metaphor, even personification, and symbol. Here I've brought you some symbols that are very clear that everybody associates different ideas with directly. If you look at this symbol here, it stands for maybe death, maybe danger. This symbol stands for peace, obviously. This symbol, maybe not as well known, is the laurel, stands for victory, but it will be familiar to you. So all of these symbols, they are pretty much universal. If they are described in a novel, everybody will know what they stand for. There are other symbols that first have to establish, or in the novel, for example, a meaning for this symbol has to be established. And I wanted to give you an example for that and took the salamander from Fahrenheit 451, where the salamander represents the police force, because a salamander, after being burned, people say that if the forest burns down, the salamander will survive. I'm not sure that's really true, but it's sort of like a story about the salamander. Anyways, and in the novel, the salamander symbol is loaded with meaning, and I think the firemen have like a sign of a salamander on their uniforms, etc. So it's a symbol that is first established. So look out for that. Is it a symbol that is universal, or is it a symbol within, for example, a novel that first is established? I hope this helped a little bit and you now feel a little bit more secure differentiating the different kinds of imagery that can be used, and maybe even understanding how it works. If you want to know more about how to analyze a metaphor, I have a great trick for you that I can show you in the next video, so maybe you want to check that out. See you soon, hopefully. Goodbye.